Hello, everyone, and welcome to another Atomic Mass Transmissions Live. I'm Will Schick, and I'm excited today to dive into painting some clone trooper specialists from the Legion Tabletop Miniatures game. I've decided to go with a 101st Battalion or the Wolf Pack color scheme for these clones, so we're going to be doing a lot of fun grays and things like that in order to get these individual clones marked out and just representing their own personal style when it comes to the Wolf Pack. So let's dive right in and get this camera off of me and on to the stars of our show, which are going to be our clone specialists here. So I have all three mounted on different bases or painting holds, which I just use these little plastic spray caps and things. So I'm going to be swapping through these things as we go. And we're just going to quickly knock out hopefully some really cool looking tabletop clones to add into my Phase 2 clone units that have yet to be built, but I'm looking forward to painting those as well. So with that, let's go ahead and start things off. You'll notice that my whites are already basically done. I used the airbrush, which I have, and I basically just primed starting with a dark gray, went to a light gray, and then I hit them from a white using Zenith techniques on top, so I kind of sketched out where I wanted the colors to be. This makes painting the white really fast and quick, which is great, so that we can immediately dive in. There's a lot of great tutorials on white out there if you're curious about how to get really great results on your clones from white. I didn't want to rehash those right now, but we'll of course go ahead and do that, I'm sure, at a later date as well. We've got a lot of clones to paint. For right now, these whites are great. We're ready to go. Let's dive in and start getting into the details on these fantabulous clone troopers. So I'm going to start with the commander. What I'm going to do is I'm going to grab some black ink and some flat black paint, and I'm just going to mix together a really quick wash. And I'm going to use this to start doing all the lining between the suits and get all of the undercoating and the shirts and stuff. Whatever the suit is called that they wear underneath their armor. And this color is going to be pretty thinned out, so we're just going to use the capillary action of the paint to flow into those cracks. It's a very similar way to how we do stuff overall on the channel, or at least the way that I like to paint, which is using that Zenith Prime and then using a lot of washes to kind of get stuff in. But the nice thing about this is that it should allow us to avoid making too much of a mess, because our paint's just going to run in to where we want it and not where we don't want it. And I've got a little reference pickup so that I make sure that I get all the right areas. And if I make a mistake, because this is such a thin down paint, like I did there, you can see I can just grab my second brush that I like to keep in my teeth, and I can just wick it away really quick before it stains the rest of my colors. So I can't kind of talk enough, and I talk about it a lot, how life-changing it is to learn how to utilize that secondary brush in terms of making sure that you always have, if nothing else, the ability to wick away mistakes. Now you can blend. It's obviously the primary reason that I keep it in my teeth is so that when I want to do blending, I have that second brush. I can immediately dive in and I can start blending away my colors and stuff. But it also works really well, even if you don't want to do two brush blending and stuff, as that correction tool. Got all these teeth. So obviously astute observers will notice that this can't be Commander Wolf because his helmet is wrong. We're just going to assume that he picked up, a spare helmet for the moment, because we don't have an actual Commander Wolf helmet in the set yet. I'm looking forward to exploring that conversation with Luke at some point. Maybe talking about how we get my boy Wolf in there. But for the moment, he's just going to stand in. This general clone commander has been promoted to Commander Wolf in my eyes. So we're using the gloves, knocking stuff out. Of course, I picked Phase 2 for all of my clones that you're going to see here. The frame does have options for Phase 1 clones as well, and of course there are a lot of non-helmet options. I suppose if I really wanted to, I could have converted one of the bear helmets, give him like a bad eye and a scar, maybe I'll go back and do that at some point. For those asking in the chat about when the Clone Specialist Pack is going to release in the United States, I have on good authority that March 12th is going to be the date that these should be hitting store shelves. I believe John posted a Facebook and Twitter announcements about that, so you can go check that out on our official social media as well. But it looks like the 12th is going to be our Huckleberry when it comes to getting the Droid Specialist Pack and the Clone Specialist Pack at your local gaming store, in your hands, ready to paint on the table, all that good stuff. And because I don't want to spend all stream painting black Under Armour, we want to get to like the fun marking stuff. I'll keep this relatively short. I am going to just do the guns really quick in this color as well, because this wash will tint that white really nicely and just give us some very quick and easy blasters. Yes, they're not really guns, they're blasters. How else would you blast them? Just gonna knock this out really quick. I already made a mistake, but I think that's okay because I'm gonna paint that Vambrance right there with the gray, so we'll just cover that up later. I might as well do the straps too. Why not? Now, one of the things that you could do, and I really like to do, but I'm not going to do just based on the time that we have here, is you could undercoat the straps with an undertone. And what that would be is just, instead of doing the wash right away over the white, taking a different paint color, like maybe a light gray or even a purple or a green or whatever you wanted, painting the strap that way and then using that as your undercoat. And then what that will do is, because the wash obviously wants to show the colors that are underneath it because it's somewhat translucent, that will change the overall color that you see from the wash itself. So using undertones is a really great trick to get a variety of different colors and effects when utilizing washes or glazes or things like that. You can use it with blending as well, but really you want to be doing it when you're doing high contrast style painting like we're doing here. And if I want to, after I paint this little fella, and I decide, oh, I don't like the strap being black, I want it to be brown or something like that, I can easily go back in and fix that as well. Because we can always paint over the things that we've painted, and that's one of the fun parts about paint. As long as you keep your paints thin, you can always go back, change things later without having to like take the paint off or anything like that. You can change colors through glazing. There's so many options when it comes down to how to affect that stuff. All right, so I think we're gonna stop there on the black. We're going to switch over our colors. So I'm gonna be using, where's my color? Rylith Gray. Or Rylith Gray, I'm not really sure how you say that. It's a nice blue gray. I think it's going to match the clone pack colors that we have going on here pretty well. And we're just going to start sketching stuff out, having fun right away, because this is the part everyone came for. So looking at my thing, I'm just going to kind of start carefully meshing out these colors. I'm going to do my best to try to keep my lines clean and stuff so that I don't have to go back and redo the white, but if I do kind of make a mistake, I can always go back with the white, clean it up. And so we want, looks like the top of that helmet to be pretty colored in, so we'll just kind of do something like this. We'll be able to get it to a point, but that's okay. Maybe this is like Wolf's second in command, and we won't besmirch the name of Wolf with this weird non-wolfy helmet. What's wrong with us here? So again, Trying to be careful with my lines, but not worrying too much about overspill or anything like that. I can always go back through. You'll notice I'm keeping my paint pretty thin, so it's a bit like a wash as well. So I have this nice highlighting and detailing going on here. So that is working. I want, let's see, we want this part here. Looks like to be in that gray. So we're gonna come down like this, come through. Here, this little side of the helmet, and we'll come up right here. And then it looks like we want to do a little bit of a V on the chin here, so just kind of knock that out really quick. Marked out. There we go. Pretty happy with how that's looking on the helmet already. Really, again, minimal effort because I'm just using that thinned out paint, and I can always go back through and like get a bit more underneath as it starts to dry and build up these nice transitional layers so I can get some darkness, some light. We'll have to figure out what color to paint that visor as well. Let's do the bottom of the boots. So those look like they're gray. So on Wolf, it looks like he likes to have his whole foot covered, so we'll just start building that in. We should switch to a bigger brush for this, but let's do that. Get the right brush, right tool for the job. Right tool for the job. If we're going to be doing the whole foot, might as well just do the whole foot. And this is going to come up right under the kneecap. So I'm just going to kind of like sketch it out a little bit. We can make it a little mussy. Take that out. So again, you know, if you want to come back later, or even while you're doing it, you want to build up these color highlights and stuff, the wash will give you a really great tabletop result. And that's all we're going for here. I'm not planning on putting this unit into a painting competition. They are gonna just be part of my larger army that I'm gonna play on the tabletop with. They need to look good from that arm's distance away. We want to have them be nice and clean, but we're not particularly gonna fret over a little messiness, and especially we're not going to worry about the legs as much, because what people will focus on is going to be the head and the chest area. So as long as those areas look really good, then no one's going to pay too much attention to the backside or necessarily to the torso down, because that's just not what we look at typically as humans. Our eyes are drawn to the face because that's the most recognizable portion. It's the part that's really important because it's going to tell you, you know, is that a friend, is that a foe, all that stuff. And then of course the kind of the upper chest as well, just based on kind of how the eye gaze works. So if you want to know where to spend all your time on a miniature, typically, depending on the miniature's pose, but typically you want to spend the most amount of time making that face and chest look really sharp. And then you can kind of just darken up and put the legs into shadow a bit more, not worry so much about that. And people won't really notice it as much. So we've got our base colors down there. For the feet, where else do we want to go here? And one of the things I really like about the clones, and what makes me excited about painting them, so the shoulder pad it looks like is going to be in gray. I'm going to come back and get the undersuit. I noticed I missed his arm on that. One of the things I think is really fun about the clones is that they allow a lot of artistic expression. And really this is true of anything that you paint. I mean, make up your own Legion color schemes for your Imperials, your Rebels, your clones. It doesn't matter. the canvas is yours to build off of in any way you want. But I really like the individuality of the clones and the fact that you can go in and utilize markings in different ways and create kind of a really fun and thematic looking force where you have a lot of individuality, yet they're all foot soldiers. They all have the same face, yet they're very different people. And I find that idea both fascinating from a narrative perspective and really fun from a painting perspective, because now I have all this opportunity to kind of come in and tell my own story and create my own characters, going so far as trying to decide if I want to put clone names on all of the bases of my clones as I go through my army, and do, just come up with dorky names for all of them. I think I'd run out of ideas. I'd probably need chat's help with that too. But I think, that's part of the fun in general of the hobby, the miniatures. Like, you get to tell your own stories, do your own what ifs, create your impact on the world. How's that gauntlet? So, looks like this part is going to be gray. And then we'll have it come up a little bit and come over this. And come over like that. Kind of come to a point. Maybe we'll make it a little angry, like teeth. I'll try to give a little bit of an impression of teeth. He's got, most of these wolf pack markings have kind of sharp angles to them, and they come to points. Come over here. Come down, and we'll hit this part of the gauntlet, and we'll kind of come over, twist that around, get back into focus, just kind of like sketch out some crazy looking markings that feel ferocious. If I make a little bit of a mistake that I don't like, I can come in with that blending brush again. This will also help me really define those sharp lines if I want to get some really kind of fine, tight lines in there, even with the bigger brush. Okay, I want to really quickly, we're going to do the cloth. So we'll do the back skirt in this color, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to thin it out even more. And I'm just going to use it as a wash over the cloth really quick and let that translucency of the wash really play with the whites underneath. Because again, we're looking for great tabletop results that we can always come back to and build off of if we so choose to, after the hour is over. So I'm just going to wash that in. And if I notice that I have too much wash in there, I can always just come back in and kind of pull it away with a cleaner brush. Push it around. You have a lot of working time. You want to be a little aware that as the wash dries, though, if you try to pull it away as it's like mid through it's dry, you're gonna be really sad because you're gonna pull the paint away and it's gonna kind of tear because the acrylic is gonna be set. So just be aware of like your working times, kind of pay attention. There we go. But already we have really nice volumes and contrast as our wash like works its way through. He's looking pretty good. What else should we do? I mean, that's kind of it for the wolf stuff. So let me fix go back to my wash. This is the other thing I really like, is that I don't typically use a wet palette, but by using really thin down paints, I get a lot of time to go back and correct things, or more working time with what I've mixed up on the palette. So I just want to get into that undersuit area that I missed. And then get under that neck and thicken and darken that up just a little bit. Sweet. Alright, so we'll go back in as he dries and kind of sketch stuff out. We'll also probably put maybe a little bit of wash over some of the details to pick them out a little better. Like we can go through if we really want to and say, okay, well, why don't we take some of this black wash and run it under the knee pads just to give them a bit more contrast and differentiation. We can do that too. There's a lot of places that we can go if we feel that need to build it out. But for right now, let's get his hand that's holding the gun because we totally missed that. Make sure that's going on. There we go. Sweet. Sweet. All right. But overall, we could definitely call this clone commander done and ready for the tabletop outside of kind of painting his base. Let's come back. We'll come back after we get bored of doing grays, and we'll hit his fancy hologram. So we'll go to radio clone next, and we're just going to do the same process. So we're going to start with our blacks, work those into the undersuits. And once we have the blacks done, we'll go to the markings. If I was truly prepared, I would have had the blacks done on these other two characters before, so you wouldn't have to sit through watching me kind of carefully line this stuff out with the same process. But here we are, friends, all together, living this clone life. We'll come back through over here. A little thick, so let's grab that brush again, thin it out, correct the mistakes. Through here. The thigh joints, get those nice and darkened out. And it doesn't take much. Again, there's a lot of different ways to achieve kind of what I've done with the airbrush here. You can use rattle can primers and just use different colors. You can obviously use a ton of different options for painting the whites. Again, there's so many great, like Sarastro's done some amazing stuff, I know, on white armor throughout his different videos. And there's lots of other folks out there, so you can always kind of find good options and ideas. And I love spending my lunch breaks or my time kind of watching other masters at work so that I can borrow their ideas and I can learn from them and create my own techniques, and that's kind of the idea. So possibility container, I don't know, maybe. I think the thing that I have this fella on is an old putty tube, actually, which is just nice and long and fits my hand really well, so I really enjoy it. But alright, so we're gonna do gloves. Shoot. Gun in the same way that we did before. Just really quick, knocking out these colors so we get to the fun part. Let's get going. Cranking these out, cranking them out. So hopefully you all have been aware. I see some chat going on in there about the mini stravaganza, which is going to be our big 3-day event coming in March. We're going to have all kinds of cool stuff going on from the hobby, from the game element, design. We're going to have art panels. So if you have any kind of wonderment or interest in knowing how Legion or any other AMG game kind of becomes a reality, you're going to get to meet the team behind everything. It's going to be a fun time. We're going to hang out we're gonna laugh, we're gonna love, we're gonna lose. I don't know. All that classic stuff, and by the end, we'll be exhausted, but we'll feel really close with each other. That's the goal here. There's a lot of great painting fresh coats, as we're calling them. That's right, I said it. It's official now. No one can change it. Classes where you're going to get to sit down with Dallas and John and sometimes myself, and we're just going to kind of go over more specifically how to do certain techniques. So Dallas is going to be covering how to paint like flesh tones, both human and alien, in 2 different classes. We're going to be covering how to paint vehicles really quickly and to a nice result. We're going to be covering things like terrain, and we're going to cover things like, metals, all kinds of stuff. There's going to be so much good content on the hobby side. And then on the design and development side, we're going to be doing sit-down chats with Luke and the Legion developer folk. We're going to talk about the process behind that. We're going to have higher level talks about just design theory and process in general, so you can kind of see how everybody approaches it differently within AMG and how we kind of unify those approaches and what they mean overall to our kind of process and design thoughts and stuff. And we're just gonna have a good time. We're gonna have some of our sculptors on to talk about sculpting process and how we make these fantastic 3-dimensional miniatures at this scale. We're going to be talking about art and the process that we go through to make sure that we have awesome art to go on cards and some of the thoughts there. We're going to be doing coverage on, like I said, all the games. It's going to be a wild time. And then I think there might be an after party even. It might be so much fun, we'll need an after party. Folks, we'll need an after party. So, should be a good time. The whole goal of the mini extravaganza is not only to, have a time where we can get together and hopefully live a little bit of that same experience that we would have normally had if we weren't living in COVID times, going to different conventions around the globe and getting to hang out in person, but also, to give everyone a chance who wants to kind of come in and learn who all of the folks at AMG are, both from the FFM side and from the AMG side. We've grown a lot, and now, of course, we're kind of in this position where we're becoming this one big family team, and we thought it would be great to just take an opportunity to introduce everybody to everyone else and kind of get to know each other on sort of a first name basis is the idea. So I think it'll be a lot of fun. There certainly will be a lot of info pouring out. I know there's all kinds of spoiler information being pulled together by our fearless marketers. So even if you're not able to make all of the different panels and painting seminars and all that stuff, be sure to watch all of our social media, because it's going to be a wild 3 days. Alright, so we're going to do this shoulder pad. I'm going to kind of freeform it on this fella, because I've got my guide up. I've got my 104th Battalion group shot picture that I have on my second screen that I'm kind of using to cheat for inspiration. But now I think, now that we're kind of into it, we're in the weeds, as it were, we're just going to start having fun. We're just going to make some markings and stuff. So the mini extravaganza is going to be the 19th through, or 19th through 18th through the 20th? 18th through the 20th. I'm pretty sure that's right. Somebody in the chat will correct me if I'm totally off base. Alright, so let's try this. We're going to go come down like that with the greave. We're going to come down on the other side. Just kind of sketching out what I want to do here. And then we're going to fill this in. Kind of a triangle going on. And then back here and put this down just a little bit so it runs. So one of the big tricks, so there's a couple ways to do free-handed stuff like this. You can just YOLO it like I'm doing, which, you know, it has its perks. It's fast. You can just get it done right away. But one of the better ways to do it, and honestly, when you're working on a larger area, like say a tank, for example, maybe a lat LE that might be coming out, and you want to put some really cool like markings on it. Once you get your base coats down, what you want to do is use a really soft pencil, like a nice soft artist pencil, and you can actually draw your design using the pencil onto the paint job. And if you make a mistake, you don't like what you're looking at, you can just erase it, because the lead won't damage the paint if it's a nice soft, like number 4, I think maybe. Pencil, you know, don't use the one that you typically use for like standardized testing, and if you happen to ever be subjected to those throughout your school career, which if you live in the States, I guarantee you were. You know what, why not? Let's do a line down this foot too, just for funsies. I don't know if that is weird or not, but that's what we're doing. We've committed. So you can draw out all of your different designs, and that way it really just becomes a like coloring book. You know, you just fill in the design with your paints. And again, it's a really non-committal way to test things out, see if you like the look of things, or not. All right, I want to, let's have some fun. So this guy, some really nice separation on his helmet. So we'll just come in and we'll just kind of fill this stuff in really quick. The paint is a little thicker than I want it for this. It's not spreading quite as much, but that's okay. We can always come back in and highlight it later. I want that control though. Ooh, and we have these like 3 little dots here. That's more what we wanted. Come in, just like that. And we can come back through with our black and black out kind of those lines too. And what do we want to do on the face here? So let's do this. I always like this design. Our clones just going around kind of the eye sockets here. Also, the benefit of this is that it helps me clean up if I was a little messy on that black, which I kind of was. We can kind of obfuscate that. A little bit of gray on the face. And then let's switch my brush really quick. So I want to get a little bit of a finer tip. And now if your brush control is really good, you might not need to even shift down to a smaller size brush, but I personally find it a little easier when I'm doing stuff like this. And let's go right here. Let's kind of make an uneven design around those little nodules. And so I'm just taking the brush and doing like really what I'm hoping are very controlled strokes, although I screwed up right there, but that's okay. Again, this is why we keep our blending brush with us. Just going to build out kind of almost like flames, I guess, but not exactly. Trying to replicate those teeth that a lot of those wolf pack fellas like to have on their stuff. We can always come back in later with some whites. Kind of reverse the effect as well. A little bit of a two process. And we have a lot of design on the chest, so let's knock out. They kind of all have that. This seems to at least be very consistent. It's this kind of like swooping arch. Ooh. I kind of like that. That looks kind of like a wolf. Let's stick with it, shall we? Let's stick with it. So, down, pull a little bit like that. Give our wolf a bottom mouth, so it looks like he's kind of howling. Why not? Why not? Sometimes the best things are the accidents. It wasn't intentional, but I'm gonna stick with it. Make a little wolf. Why not? On his shoulder. Color that out. I think that'll be good. I'm going to just do some swoop designs over here. Because I noticed that they really like kind of these designs. So again, I'm just taking that blending brush, painting nice and thin, and I can blend out my lines to give them a bit of a sharper edge. You see how easily I'm able to pull that paint right off and really get to a shape that I like for these things. Yeah, that's pretty cool. I like that. We'll replicate that on the gauntlet really quick. On his Vambrance. Just because that's like a really good focal point of this mini. Since it's up. Just gonna come through and do these little swooshes. And come back through with our, again, grabbing that blending brush and just pull those brush strokes into more of a defined, cleaner point. Yeah, that's pretty fun. I like that. So, sweet. I'm pretty happy with where we're turning out. We're getting some pretty nice looking stylistic clones. I'm gonna move on to this. I believe this is the medic that I've got next here. Dude with data pad. And why don't we do something fun here? And let's welcome a Luke Eddy. Because I believe Luke has some interesting information to share. Some fun, exciting stuff.
This is true. Hello.
Hello. How are you, friend Luke?
I'm good. I'm happy to jump on. You can watch me talk while there's a little clone medic being painted here.
That's right. He's got to get painted so he can go heal his friends.
It's true. They need help.
Or heal his enemies with extreme violence. That's more of what I want my clone medics to do.
That is true. That is something that these clone medics can do that the other ones can't. They can wake up today and choose violence.
That's right. They can save lives through violence, and I think that makes them amazing.
I mean, they all got to be shooty boys. That's the clones.
That's the clones. That's step one. Step one is learn to shoot. Step two, maybe learn a trade.
Maybe, yeah, exactly. Got to get that shooting down first.
So I hear you have some exciting news concerning if I have a Legion rules question, which I've had several of for you lately.
Oh, you do?
I do. I have. I mean, we've sat in meetings where I've certainly asked a lot of questions.
That's true.
Maybe those who don't get to sit in Zoom meetings with you all the time have a new way of asking questions of our intrepid development staff when it comes to Legion.
Indeed, yes. If you had a question and you couldn't get a hold of me, well, what would you do? You'd just be out of luck.
I would
So
be. I
we're
would
gonna
make
fix
up the
that.
answer. That's what
Well,
I would
that's true.
do.
You have that prerogative. You can just make up the answer,
I
and
could.
just keep moving.
I could.
But for other people who don't have that luxury, we mentioned before that there's going to be a Legion rules website, and we're going to have that go live later today. So I thought,
Woo!
yeah, I thought I'd give, so first, that's the announcement, but I'm here to talk a bit about what to expect and how to get the most out of it. So it's going to be pretty much the same as the existing Atomic Max Games rules site. So there's a format there already. The way it works is you log on. There's going to be a whole lot of frequently asked questions already there on the site, available for people to look up. It's really easily searchable. So like that's the first thing you do when you get on is use the search feature, see if your question already has an answer. You can look up, it'll search any part of a post. So if it's related to a particular card, if it's an ability, if it's sort of a terrain rule, or maybe it's sort of a general game mechanic rule, type it in, look it up, see if you can find it. But if it's not there, if it's a brand new question that you have run into something you don't know the answer to, you can it's easy to make an account and you post the question, and myself and the other developers and moderators can see questions that people submit to us. And if it's again something we haven't answered, and it's a actual rules question, you can only post rules questions, FYI. We'll respond with an answer, and then that post will be public, along with all the other FAQ posts. It'll be searchable, so you can see other people's questions they've asked and the answers we've given, and then that thread is locked once it gets an answer to it. So it's a great place. So the resource is there for you to look up what has already been asked, which is something that for the Fantasy Flight games we've not really had. There was a rules thread on the FFG site where we had some official rulings that was useful. But if people emailed us questions, or asked us a question in person, there's no real way to disseminate that information. It was not fun if we ran into situations where a player maybe was privileged to an answer we'd given, and then encountered that question at a tournament. And other people didn't know that there was an answer to that question. So we're going to avoid all that. All the questions that people ask that we reply to, everyone can see on this website. So it's going to be super rad.
Yeah, and so once an answer is given, you can kind of assume that is the official locked answer. And many of those, if they're errata and FAQ worthy, I imagine will wind up on documents later on when we do updates and stuff.
Yep. And in terms of like the officialness of this site is very official. So anything
100% official.
100? No, I would say 110% official.
Oh my gosh.
Because this is where we're also going to post corrections to, like as you said, like to the rules reference. So there will be some posts on here that supersede the rules reference. If it's an unanticipated interaction that's actually like game breaking or has no answer, and we need to actually like correct the rules reference, sooner than waiting for sort of our next cycle of update to it, we'll post it here. And we had been doing that previously with the rulings on the Fantasy Flight forum, but we're gonna put them here as well, and they'll be very clear what is a rules reference correction. It'll have its own sort of sub page so that you can easily check out what those are. And it's a great resource too for tournament organizers, for judges. They can search it in the middle of a tournament to see if there's an answer to a question that a player has. And they can familiarize themselves with some of the FAQs on there, and just be able to anticipate what questions players might ask, and have a consensus, across different tournaments at different events, that sort of thing. So, but it's a great resource as well for casual players. We're going to be answering. We'll answer those burning questions that everyone has when they start playing the game, like can you force push someone off of a ledge? And no, I'm sorry, you still can't. But we'll answer all those questions too.
Well, I don't appreciate your answer, but I do appreciate you answering it. I guess that's the mentality we'll take into this whole thing, right? Um,
Yes, indeed.
yeah, no. The goal really for the whole move to the rules forum was to create a place where there's a repository of easily accessible information by everyone. Hopefully, it will allow folks to not have to wait for an email answer or anything like that because it's going to be right there.
Hmm.
Couple things that, just to reiterate, you do have to make an account if you want to post a rules question. Um, that's going to allow us to make sure that we're not getting spammed by anything, and also that we can track and make sure that everything's going through. And the other important thing to note is that when you post your question, it's not going to show up right away. So what's going to happen is it's going to get sent to the development staff. They're going to review it, and like Luke said, they'll determine if it is a question that is a valid question, and then if it is, they will submit an answer. It will post up. It will go live. You'll get notified about it. This is part of why we want you to make an account, so that you'll know when your question is answered. And then once your question is answered, it's there. The thread is locked. So it's not, if you want to debate the rules question, sorry, this isn't going to be your place for it. This is just for information and, letting you know exactly what the developer's ruling on the subject is. So.
And I should add too, there's a brief window there where after we've answered your question, you can still reply before the thread is locked if you were the author of it, to say, hey, thank you, this answers my question, or be like, oh, I have a related question, or this doesn't quite answer what I was asking, or I need to rephrase what I was asking. So there's a brief window there for a follow-up in case, it didn't quite get the right answer, or the answer you were, I want to say that didn't get the answer you're looking for. That's maybe the wrong turn of phrase there, because as I said, these are the official answers. But and also to reiterate too, please use the search function. We've been ahead of this, going through and writing up a ton of just frequently asked questions. We've transferred over everything that was on the Fantasy Flight website, all those FAQs, and then we've added to those substantially to answer a lot of things regarding like Lando and Callus command cards and abilities, things like that. So we're trying to anticipate a bunch of questions too. So when you hop on there, start by searching, see if your question's already been answered, and then if it hasn't, then look for a follow-up there.
Mm-hmm. Perfect. I love it.
Yeah. Yep, and it's exciting too. I say we because we have a moderator helping us out do it. LJ Pena, some of you know him as Talk Polite. He's an awesome guy in the Legion community, and he's going to be helping us answer those official questions. So I'm happy to have a little team work in here. So good stuff.
Absolutely. And then, of course, we're looking forward to having you on a few of the dev chats and talking about all the Star Wars goodies over Mini Stravaganza. You and Simone were going over kind of the schedule, and it was kind of your first taste of all of the good stuff you get to do. It's very exciting.
Yeah, it's very exciting. It'll be a fun little event for sure. I'm certainly looking forward to being on some of the little panels that we're going to have. I think too, it's it's a good format for us. It's kind of a little bit similar to what Fantasy Flight and some of the other studios did for Gen Con last year. And it was cool to us to have a little control over showing stuff off and having different sort of times dedicated to different game lines and stuff like that. So I think it'll be a great format. It'll be a lot of fun.
Yeah, it was certainly a blast to do. Like you mentioned, this is a format that AMG used alongside a lot of the other studios for Gen Con last year. We did it for PAX Online later in the fall. So it's not exactly the perfect con experience because we don't all get to meet together and hang out in the same space, but it's the best substitute, I think. So I'm excited to have the opportunity to just kind of chat, hang out, talk, show off a lot of cool stuff. It's gonna be a good time. I think we will have a lot of fun, and hopefully we'll give people a lot of stuff to talk about.
Yes, yes. There's definitely going to be some fun reveals that I think will get people excited.
That's the goal, right? And the goal is to get people excited one way or the other. So
Exactly. Yes. Yeah, and I'm looking forward to, you mentioned the developer panels we're going to have too. That'll be fun because, you get to, I got to touch on that a little bit when we do the Fantasy Flight streams, where we'd be like playing a game and showing off new stuff. But, I'd love to, have a more, in-depth conversation about, beyond just, here's my thoughts on why we designed something, a particular thing the way we did, but more broadly speaking, what are some of our philosophies for how we go about design? What are the different sort of goals we're balancing when we're designing, more generally speaking, that sort of thing.
Yeah, it's we'll have, so like we kind of talked about, we'll have a couple that are very game focused. So we're going to have a Legion one, obviously. We're going to have a Star Wars and Armada one, and that will be the place to kind of talk about the specific approaches that we take to those games, like what kind of drives their philosophy, what's coming. It'll be a good place for the hashtag spoilers. But then more specifically, we're going to have the one that I like the most is the one you were talking about, which is very focused on the philosophy of game design and development. And it's like really big overarching concepts of, well, I think you do this, and this is how I like to approach things, and this is how games that I enjoy influence my approach to that. And my favorite thing about that is that there's no right or wrong answers, and the more voices you add into it, kind of the more random or different answers that you get. So it can be a really good time, and it's always illuminating. And I like hearing other people's approaches to things. It's a lot like the hobby. It just gives me a lot of really great ideas on how to improve my skills, how to look at things differently. And it's always fun to just know how the people who make the products that you enjoy and dive into, how they think, what they want to do with it. So
it's a little view behind the curtain.
A little bit, yeah. And you'll find out who you agree with and who you don't, and that's also fun too.
Well, and in terms of panels like that I'm not on that I'm excited about are the art discussion ones.
Oh, yeah.
I love the art that we put out. We have so many talented freelance artists we work with, and our main Star Wars art director, Preston Stone, is amazing. And I'm definitely going to tune in and watch those just for fun. I'm excited about those ones for sure.
Yeah, and I know that the few that we gave during Gen Con last year, we certainly didn't hold back on showing off a couple of things that people had never seen before. It's again, much like everything else, right? It's fun to learn how people approach things, and just like with game design, which is creative, art is also creative, and there's no right or wrong answer, so everybody kind of has their own unique approach to how they do it and what they're looking for, and then it changes per game too. There's different styles and tonal approaches, and how do you tell that story and create that experience based on what you're doing and things like that. So I agree. Those are fun. Those are fun panels to watch. It's always interesting to see how people think about that and approach it to make something really great and fun. And I hate all of this, so I'm just going to do this.
Yeah, how's that going there?
It was going really great on the one side, but now I'm on my bad side, so it's a lot harder to do the design.
Well, here's the thing, though. Here's the thing. It's not you who painted this. The clones paint their own armor. So if it's bad, it's this clone's fault.
It's this
not
clone's
yours.
fault. He just can't do the triangles on the other side of his helmet.
Yeah, exactly.
It's really the gun. It's kind of in my way, but I'm gonna give it another try because I can erase all day. I can't paint all day. I only get an hour, but maybe we'll just do 2 triangles on this side. We'll make it asymmetrical.
Yeah, just to comment on a little bit on the conversation in chat, and if chat has questions about the forum, we got a few minutes left here where I could answer some, but not actual rules questions, but just about the forum in general. Save your rules questions.
Point of order.
For this forum that we made specifically for answering rules questions. But in terms of like timeline, yeah, we're looking at, questions won't necessarily be answered immediately when they're posted. we're generally going to try and keep it within a few days, at least like, maybe 5 business days. Like tournament ruling questions, that's maybe a different issue where if it's ahead of a large event or something like that, we'll try and get ahead of answering questions that may be coming up, that we anticipate being questions during that tournament. Say if the tournament is relatively soon after a release of some new products that might raise, FAQs, or clarifications about them, then we'll try and be on top of that. So yeah, good stuff though. As someone else pointed out, yes, this is really good for tournament organizers, and I think, if you're a judge, this is going to be, you can devour all the questions we ask on here. If you're, running a more casual event, it's great for in the midst of a game or something like that, being able to look up, something that, is hopefully, if it's a relatively common question or not about anything brand new, it's a good chance you'll find it answered on the site already, find your answer, then get back to playing the game.
Boom.
There you go.
All right, I have 4 minutes left, and I'm pretty happy with where we got in an hour on 3 clones. There's certainly ways to spruce them up, but we had a little bit of fun on this clone medic, just giving him. Probably should give him some kind of red stripe,
Well, you can do it. You can do it later on the backpack.
I could. I do have to do the backpack. The backpack is definitely unfinished. All right, so let's see. So there's our medic. He's got some like teeth on him. Here's our commander, this is our radio operator. You could certainly, he's got his little stripes on the side there. He's got a bit more of that wolf teethy thing, but he's all asymmetrical. Maybe we'll call him lopsided. Clone lopsided. And then here's our commander that we started with. I didn't paint the hologram. Let's do that. I got to do that really quick.
Oh, you got to do that. Got to paint that.
I know. We're just going to use some Fluor blue from Scale. And this
if you don't paint it, it's just going to look like he's holding a tiny version of himself, just like a little toy.
That's now that's what I want to do. I want to paint like the little gray helmet and stuff. I don't know. You might have convinced me that he needs to be holding his own miniature.
Oh man,
that is meta. But instead, although I'm really tempted now, I can't do that in 4 minutes. I'm just going to grab some Fluor blue. I'm going to get back on camera. I thinned it down just a little bit, and we're just going to wash this in. And this is my quick and easy glowy recipe. And then once this dries, if you want to like accentuate kind of the overall effect, just go back in and do a really quick dry brush with like some nice pure white, or if you want it to be more subtle, you can mix the Fluor blue with white and do successive highlights to get to that kind of stage. But if we just do some really quick wicking with our clean brush, you can pull back some of that white and not even have to do the dry brushing part. Just kind of get that sense. You really want it to be like light on top, so you can just kind of pull. Too much, push that around. This is the fun part about working with washes. You can really like manhandle them, push them around, pull them off. Trying to get the effect that you want.
Chat's suggestion of painting that little guy gold is pretty good too.
Oh yeah, like a little chess piece.
Yeah, or he won an Oscar. He won the clone Oscar.
He won the clone Oscar. I like that. You are the best clone. Yeah, this could be anything.
I mean, Wolf is one of the best clones.
He is. We'll discuss. I'll be posting my where's Commander Wolf question on the rules forum right after this. All of the things we just talked about.
It will be deleted because it's not actually a rules question.
I am tenacious, so I can just continue to post it nonstop.
I
All right,
see.
there we go. There's our little hologram. He's talking to his buddy. there's certainly plenty more to do on these fellas, but hopefully this kind of inspires everybody out there for their own clone specialists, which are coming out March 12th. In case you missed our announcement, you get to add these fine clones into your clone army. You do have the option of the Phase 2 or the Phase 1 helmet. I'm definitely leaning towards the Phase 2. It's my favorite of the clone armors, so I put all these fellas into clone or into Phase 2s, but you have a lot of different options when it comes to the set itself. There's also a bunch of different arm options. The commander has holding helmet. He's got the hologram projector. I think he's got something else going on too that I can't quite remember, but it's a lot of fun. It's a very cool set. And of course, game-wise, they bring a ton to your units and a lot of different options and opportunities to like flesh out units so they can be even better in combat, more survivable, all that good stuff. So until then, I believe I can get 2 of them on screen. There you go. There's Radio Dude not. There's Clone Commander Guy. Oh, come back into focus. There we go. Clone Commander Guy and Medic Guy. We just need to do all of their backpacks and all of their cool accoutrement. But overall, there we are. Thank you, Luke, for joining us. I'm going to go over here now. All right. Well, thank you so much, everybody, for being here and hanging out for the hour. I hope that you're all looking forward to March as we are. Of course, watch out for the specialist packs, both for the droids and for the clones, coming out March 12th. And be sure to check back in with us tomorrow at 1 p.m. Pacific for another live stream featuring Dallas Kemp, our creative director. And then, of course, we will have our Friday live stream, which will be back to more Legion and Star Wars goodness. That is Friday, 1 p.m. with John Schaefer. And then, of course, we will begin all over again next week, starting at Tuesday, and then back here with me on Wednesday. I don't know yet what I'm painting. Maybe we'll come back to these clones. Maybe we'll do something completely different. Who knows? There's a lot of open opportunities for cool things to paint. If you have some ideas or want to see some certain techniques or things like that, be sure to hit us up on Facebook, social media, Twitter, Instagram, all that good stuff. There are a lot of things we'd like to cover. Knowing what you'd like to see would also be helpful as well, because we do have a huge range of things that we can do. And of course, we always like to paint new releases on the stream, so be sure to watch out for that as well. We've got a lot of cool things coming up. Until then, be good to each other, stay safe, stay happy, get in as many games as you can safely, and we will see you on the next one. Goodbye.